When I was 12, I hiked 67 miles in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, and I never forgot it. 2 years later, I wanted to hike the entire Appalachian Trail, but the thought sounded deep in my psyche like a great wail until 2005. I realized then that I would turn 65 the next year, and the great wail breached in a thought that has steered me ever since. Wouldn't it be neat to celebrate my 65th birthday on Katahdin? For 10 years, I said to my staff and my wife, Bonnie, if I can close my office by the end of the year, I'm going to start the trail next spring. Bonnie would have preferred to be consulted on the matter, but she eventually realized that this was something I had to do. I wound down my law practice and hiked more than 400 miles in Vermont and Pennsylvania to prepare myself and my golden retriever Theo, who would accompany me on the trail. On Valentine's Day 2016, my family gathered to bid me farewell. I gave Bonnie a gold ring with 3 precious stones representing our love for each other, even though separated. On February 18th, I kissed her goodbye and headed for Springer Mountain. It takes 5 million steps to thru-hike the AT. On the afternoon of Sunday, February 21st, Theo and I took our first. 8 months and 6 days later, 2,200 miles farther north, we'd take our last. The AT traverses the Appalachian Mountain Range and passes through 14 states. The elevation change equals 16 ascents up Everest. I lost 30 pounds on my hike, not because I didn't eat. At a campground, I ordered 2 eggs over light, toast and bacon, then a biscuit and gravy, then French toast, and finally a hamburger. Just before the Whites, someone we call a trail angel was set up just off the trail to serve trail magic to hungry hikers. I had a 9-egg omelet loaded with kielbasa, peppers, onions, and cheese. On August 31st, I was back on Franconia Ridge, where I'd been at age 12. The wind was howling, and I howled right back as I peered over distant mountains, alternately aglow and darkened under fast-moving clouds that swept in and out. Camping above tree line is not permitted. On Madison, I had no choice. In the middle of the night, wind nearly blew my tent off the mountain. I packed hurriedly and headed down. In southern Maine, there was a section so difficult I thought this must be where Adam and Eve sinned, and Mother Nature lost it. It took Theo and me 4.5 hours to go 1 mile, over, around, and under boulders, at times pulling my pack behind me. South of Rangeley, Maine, I fell hard against a tree root and dislocated my left incisor. The only dentist in Rangeley popped it back in. This fall and tripping over rusted barbed wire in July caused serious damage to my right rotator cuff, rendering the arm useless. A doctor in Greenville, Maine, aspirated 45 cc's of cloudy fluid from the bursa and put me in the hospital on IV antibiotics for 4 days to ward off infection of a partial knee replacement. I declined surgery because I had no pain and no fever, and it would have put me off the trail. While in the hospital, I saw the weather in northern Maine was going to be sunny for the next 3 days. I got a ride that day to a camp 10 miles from the Mile High finish. We were at the base of the mountain the next night and were hiking by 4:30 the next morning. We reached the summit and the iconic Katahdin sign at noon and began our descent a half hour later. It took 11 hours to climb and descend the mighty Monarch. The day ended with a 3-hour drive back to the start of the famous 100-mile wilderness, which would end our thru hike. Disappearing into the wilderness for 10 days was difficult. I had been hiking 2 months longer than most and was running on fumes. We were cold and wet from river crossings, rain, and snow. I took my 5 millionth step on the Appalachian Trail on October 27, 2016, at 1:45 p.m. My thru hike was over. Katahdin was under 5 inches of snow. There was no elation. It was like waking up in the recovery room after surgery. You're not ready to take on the world. You need to be quiet for a while. Need to get your bearings. Bonnie flew to Bangor, Maine, and rented a car to meet me at the north end of the wilderness. I could not have done what I did without her loving support and that of my entire family. I was skin and bones at the end of 2016. Every step had consumed some of my flesh and replaced normal life with an amazingly silent wilderness. Family and friends have lost a major part of me. The sun on our backs is not the same. They haven't experienced the physical calluses, the mental and spiritual endurance, nor the constant grace of natural beauty on a thru hike. The AT allowed me to detox from society and enculturation that erodes the natural man and the wild heart. The AT was hard, demanding endurance and perseverance, but I was free from the influences of a culture built on excessive consumption. We love what demands much of us. The AT demanded enough that it has forever changed me. I've written a book about my experiences on the Appalachian Trail with Theo in 2016. If you have any interest in our tales of the trail, send your email address to thebook@hikersojo.com, and I'll let you know when it's published.